Hello students. Today I am giving you revision of chapter 1, that is nutrition in plants. In this chapter we will read about different modes of nutrition. Now first I want to explain you the term nutrition. As already you have read about nutrition in previous class, nutrition is a long process in which we intake the food, and after intaking the food, digestion of the food will start. And when we intake the food in our mouth, digestion start from mouth only and it will complete in the small intestine. During this whole process, different enzymes are mixed together and all type of nutrients are completely digested, and after digestion the nutrients will convert into glucose form, and from the inner wall of the small intestine these nutrients will be absorbed. This process is also called assimilation. After completion of the digestion, the nutrients will be used by our body. So this whole process of intaking of food and utilization of the nutrients in our body is called nutrition. There are two types of mode of nutrition: autotrophic and heterotrophic. Auto means self, trophic means to feed, that means nutrition, and hetero means others, trophic means again to feed. So we will explain it in detail. First, autotrophic mode of nutrition. As the term indicates, auto means self, trophic means nutrition. So in this mode of nutrition, the organism can prepare food in their body, and all green plants which are having chlorophyll, they can prepare their food themselves and known as autotrophs. Now the process by which green plants make their food is called photosynthesis. For photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water are required as raw materials. Sunlight is necessary, which provide energy for this process, and chlorophyll will capture the sunlight. Now, oxygen and starch or glucose are the products formed after completion of this reaction, and photosynthesis always occur in the presence of sunlight only. Now, starch is formed during the process of photosynthesis. This can be understood with the help of this activity. In this activity, we will pluck a leaf and we will keep it inside a test tube, and we will fill that test tube with alcohol. Actually, alcohol will dissolve the chlorophyll present in it. So, after this activity, when we will perform iodine test, it will show the clear result, that means color change will be clearly appear. In this activity, we cannot boil or cannot heat up the alcohol directly because it is highly inflammable. So first we will keep the leaf inside the test tube, fill it with alcohol, and then in water bath we will heat it up. In a beaker we will take water and heat that water, and due to this warm water the alcohol will also be heated up and the leaf will be decolorized. After this we will rinse it with water and put some drops of iodine on it. The color of the iodine is reddish brown, and when we will put this iodine drops on the leaf, its color will change into blue black. This shows the presence of starch, that means starch is formed after the reaction of photosynthesis. Here on this page you can see the chemical equation for the process of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide and water are reactants. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, this reaction will occur and glucose and oxygen are formed as byproducts. Now, what are the essential conditions for photosynthesis? First is sunlight. Sunlight is used as a source of energy for the process of photosynthesis, and as you know that sun is the ultimate source of energy for all organisms. Now, whether sunlight is really necessary or not for the process of photosynthesis, this can be proved with the help of again this activity. In this activity, we will cover some part of a leaf when it is on the plant only. Now, after 2 or 3 days, we will pluck that leaf which some part is covered by a paper, and then we will pluck that leaf. Now we will again perform the same experiment as we have done in activity 1 to decolorize the leaf. After boiling it in the alcohol, we will rinse it with water and perform the iodine test. We will observe that only those parts are showing blue color which were not covered, that means only uncovered parts which were getting sunlight, they are converted into bluish color, and the remaining part which was covered is not showing positive iodine test. This shows that sunlight is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Now, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the pigment which provides green color to the leaves. This not only provide green color but also capture the sunlight for the process of photosynthesis. Now, whether chlorophyll is really necessary for photosynthesis or not, again we have to do an activity, and for doing this we will take a variegated leaf. Variegated leaf means such leaf which is not fully green in color. Some part of the leaf is non-green. So we will take such a variegated leaf and perform again the bleaching test. For doing bleach, we will boil this leaf in alcohol, and after that we will perform the iodine test. When we will put some iodine drops on it, we will observe that only that part converted into blue color which was earlier green in color, and the remaining part are not showing blue color. This shows that chlorophyll is necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Now, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is that gas which we release during the process of respiration. Oxygen is required for the process of respiration, and carbon dioxide is released as a product. Now, this carbon dioxide is utilized by green plants for preparation of food. Now, how this carbon dioxide reaches inside the leaves? To understand this, we observe this picture here. On the lower surface of the leaves, mostly on the lower surface of the leaves of terrestrial plants, and on the upper surface of the leaves of aquatic plants, stomata are found. What are stomata? Stomata are tiny pores which are found on the lower surface or ventral surface of the leaves. These tiny pores are covered with the help of two bean-shaped cells known as guard cells. When these guard cells are turgid, the stomata will be closed, and when these guard cells are flaccid in condition, then the stomata will be open. When the stomata are open, exchange of gases occur inside the leaves. Now, carbon dioxide is required for the process of photosynthesis. This can be understood with the help of this activity. In this activity, we will put some soda lime inside a conical flask, and after that, with the help of a cork, we will put a green leaf inside it. Soda lime is that chemical which can absorb the carbon dioxide present in the conical flask. Now, in this conical flask, we will observe the leaf after 3 or 4 hours that this leaf is preparing food or not. Here, this leaf will not prepare food. We will perform the same test of bleaching and iodine test in it, and we will observe that no starch is formed inside the leaf during this period because there was no carbon dioxide inside the conical flask. Though light was available to it, but it could not prepare food due to the absence of carbon dioxide, which was already absorbed by soda lime present in the conical flask. Now, water and minerals. We all know that roots of the plants absorb water with minerals from the soil particles, and the root hair of the roots will absorb this. But how this water and mineral will reach to all parts of the plants and up to leaves also? This function is done with the help of specific tubes known as xylem. Xylem are the special tubes present inside the plant. They will start from the root hair and go through the stem of the plant, and they will also branch in all branches, and after that in the form of veins these xylem tubes will reach to the leaves. In this manner the water and mineral is reached to the leaves. Now the food which is prepared in the leaves, it will go to all parts of the plant with the help of another type of tubes known as phloem. Phloem are the tubes which are used for translocation of food, and xylem are the tubes which are required for transportation of water. Now, synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates. Plants synthesize carbohydrate glucose through the process of photosynthesis, but there are some other type of food material is also formed. For example, protein and fat. These are also synthesized inside the different parts. But for this fat, again carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are required as for carbohydrates. In carbohydrate, three elements are present: carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. In the same manner, in fat also carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are required. So they can prepare this food. But for preparation of protein, one another element is also required, and that is nitrogen. Now, how this nitrogen will reach to the plant? We know that 78% of the air contain nitrogen, but still plants are not able to absorb this nitrogen from the soil. So what they will do? This is done with the help of specific bacteria known as rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium bacteria are found in the nodules of the leguminous plants. Leguminous plants means the plants of pulses. These rhizobium bacteria will convert atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogenous compound. They will aid these compounds in the soil, and these nitrogen compounds will reach to the plant with water. Now, this rhizobium bacteria is also known as nitrogen fixing bacteria. In this manner, nitrogen nutrient is available to plants. Now, we are reading heterotrophic mode of nutrition. All of you know that heterotrophic mode of nutrition is found in mostly in all animals, but still there are some plants which also show heterotrophic mode of nutrition, because either they cannot synthesize food in themselves, otherwise they are lacking some nutrients. To fulfill the deficiency of these nutrients, they show heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition are of different types in different plants. First, we will categorize such type of mode of nutrition in parasitic plants. Parasite. This term indicates that such organisms which are dependent on others. These are known as parasites. One of the example of parasitic plant is Cuscuta, or you call it in Hindi in Amar Bel, or dodder also. This is a yellow colored thread which is found on many plants. This plant cannot prepare their food due to the absence of chlorophyll in it, so it is a leafless plant, but some specific hook like structure known as haustoria are present on this thread, and they will pierce these hook-like structure in the body of other plants and absorb nutrient from it. In this manner, this parasitic plant is dependent on host plant for the nutrients. Rafflesia is also another example of parasitic plant. Now in this picture you can see mistletoe. Mistletoe is also parasitic plant, but it is a partial parasite because it can perform the process of photosynthesis, but some nutrients are lacking in it, and to fulfill the requirement of these nutrients, it grows on the body of some other plants to absorb the nutrients from in it. Now, insectivorous plant. As this term indicate, insect, you know that, and vorous means to eat. So insectivorous plants are such plants which trap the insects, which eat the insects for fulfilling the nutrient requirement in their body. They will have some specific structures to capture the insect and absorb the nutrient from the body of the insect. For example, in Venus flytrap, as you are seeing, the leaves are converted into some specific structure in which spikes are present, and these two spikes, these two parts, they are in flat form. When any insect will sit on this, these two parts will join together as we can join our palms together, and as we can interlock our fingers, the spikes of these two parts will also interlock and the insect will be trapped in between them. Now they will secrete some specific enzymes or digestive juices on the body of the insect, then absorb the nutrients from the body of the insect, and after that this insect will be expelled out. It will open again and the insect will be thrown out. Now in pitcher plant, the tip of the some leaves is converted into a pitcher like structure, and its end point will converted into a lid. This will close the pitcher. When an insect sit on the pitcher, its wall will be active and show some movement, and the insect will go inside the pitcher. Now the lid will be closed. Now in this closed pitcher, different digestive juices are secreted by the body of the plant, and these digestive juices will digest the insect. The required nutrients will be absorbed from the body of the new insect, and then this insect or undigested food will be expelled out. In this manner, insectivorous plants obtain their nutrients. Now saprophytic plants. Saprophyte, both in plants and animals, saprophytes are those organisms which derive their nutrient from the dead and decaying organic matter. Saprophytic plants like fungi, mushroom, bread mold, all these are fungi. Such plants, they grow on dead and decaying matter. And here what happen, as we can grow the new plant from the seeds, these fungi can grow on any suitable place with the help of spores. The spores are formed in ball-like structures called sporangia of the fungi, and when these sporangia will be matured, the all spores will scattered in the air. They will flow away in different directions, and when these spores get suitable condition, they will start growing there. For example, some spores of bread mold will run here and there, and when they will get some suitable edible food like bread, like any pickle, etc., curd also, any vegetable, they will start growing there. First the bread will convert into, there will be a white growth on the bread, and after that this white growth will convert into greenish color, and after some time this green color will turn into black color. In this manner, this bread mold will grow there and it will spoil the food. It will absorb the nutrient from the bread and it will grow there. For the saprophytic plants release digestive juices on the dead and decaying matter, and these juices act upon and convert organic matter into liquid form. These liquid form are actually simpler substances. These organisms then again absorb this liquid and obtain nutrient from it. Now, symbiotic plant. Symbiotic is actually a relationship in which two organisms are associated together and they will mutually benefit from each other. One of the most common example of symbiosis is lichen. Here two partners are there, one is algae and another is fungus. The alga is autotroph and it can prepare food themselves, but the fungus is showing heterotrophic mode of nutrition. But here the function of fungus is to collect the raw materials for preparation of the food like water and mineral etc. And it will provide these raw materials to alga and alga will prepare food. In this manner, both are get benefited from each other. This shows symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship is also useful for the replenishment of the nutrients in the soil. As you have seen in leguminous plant, the root nodules of leguminous plants have rhizobium bacteria. This rhizobium bacteria will fix the atmospheric nitrogen, convert into nitrogenous compounds and provide to the plants. For this, he will get the nutrients, different other nutrients from the plant body. In this manner, both are get benefited from each other. So, you have read this chapter again. Now, revise it properly. Thank you.